Have you ever left a meeting or a conversation and immediately replayed every word that you said, cringing at how much you shared?
Oh, did I say too much? Did I overshare? Why didn't I tell him that?
If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Today, we're talking about the neurodivergent habit of over-explaining, why we do it, what it looks like, and how to keep it from running the show. Hi, I'm Summer. I'm a keynote speaker and a leadership trainer that was late diagnosed with autism and ADHD. I'm also a corporate survivor that helps neurodivergent professionals thrive in a workplace that wasn't built for us. I've worked for the Walt Disney Company, HEB, and even a dude ranch. And now I'm earning my PhD studying neurodivergence in the workplace because I believe that organizations need to understand how our brains work, lead, and succeed. This week, we're diving into a pattern that shows up a lot in neurodivergent communication, over-explaining. Now let's start with the why. Over-explaining can come from a few different places. The first one, which you saw in a prior video, is masking. Many of us have learned to over-explain as a form of self-protection. If I explain myself thoroughly enough, maybe people won't judge me. Maybe I won't be too much or too intense or too aggressive. Maybe I'll seem normal. Rejection sensitivity. Now for ADHDers especially, there's often a deep fear of being misunderstood or disliked. So we over-explain to avoid rejection. And to give you an idea of this, the area in our brain that lights up for rejection is the same area that lights up for physical pain. So when we think about this rejection sensitivity, we avoid rejection at the same way that we would avoid physical pain. And then for my autistic individuals in the room, autistic processing. For those of us that are on the spectrum, we may default to full transparency. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the whole picture. I'm not just going to give you the headline. We value precision and context, and that can lead to a whole bunch of details. And then another reason is anxiety. Sometimes we over-explain because we're nervous. We fill in the silence. We anticipate objections. We want to pre-defend our choices before anyone questions them. Now, none of these reasons are bad. They're adaptations. But they can lead to burnout, communication breakdowns, and a sense that we're constantly apologizing simply for existing. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, what does over-explaining look like in action? I would love to over-explain that to you. Now, let's say that you give a 5-minute answer to a yes or no question. That could be over-explaining. You justify things that no one asked about, like why your camera is off, or why you need an extension. You respond to silence by feeling it, even if your point was already clear. You finish a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, you're like,
God, why didn't I just stop talking?
Now, if this sounds familiar, here's the thing. Over-explaining can often give us a sense of control, but what it does is it actually gives away our power. It takes us out of control. So if you want to stop yourself without losing your voice, let's get practical and talk about how you can do it. Here are some of the tips that I use and that I share with my coaching clients on how to rein in over-explaining without shutting yourself down. Tip number 1 is to practice the pause. There is so much power in silence. When you feel the urge to explain, pause. Literally take a breath. Count to 3 in your head. And many times silence can feel uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. Especially for those of us that tend to practice what we're going to say again and again and again. Reality is we may have been thinking about it for an hour, a day, a week, and when we drop it on them, it's going to take them a little bit of time to get caught up. So allow the pause to happen because you're also doing them the favor of giving them some processing space. Now, tip number 2, use a stop phrase. You can have a go-to phrase that signals that you're done. Something like, I hope that makes sense, or let me know if you'd like more detail. This gives you an exit ramp and it tells your brain, okay, stop. And it puts the ball in the other person's court to ask questions if they don't understand. Now, if I've ever worked with you for executive presence or delivering a presentation, then you know one of my tricks is those filler phrases that we have, like, does that make sense? And right? This is different. As you're learning to fill in and sit in the silence, having this stop phrase can help you do it. We're not saying it's going to be a crutch that you're going to use forever, but it can help you begin getting comfortable in the silence. Now, the third tip, remind yourself you deserve brevity. You don't owe people your entire internal process. It's okay to answer simply. It's okay to say no without a backstory, and it's okay to take up space without justification. Being honest, I'm still working on this one every day. Tip number 4, rehearse those high stakes moments. If you know you tend to over-explain in meetings or interviews, rehearse your main points ahead of time. Bullet points, 1-sentence summaries. Practice ending your thought with confidence and not an uptick like, does that make sense? You can say, I hope that makes sense. Now, tip number 5, reflect with compassion. When you find yourself slipping up, because you will, it's a hard habit to break, don't beat yourself up. Notice it. Ask yourself, what was I trying to protect? Where was the discomfort coming from? Having that awareness is powerful. When I first started my PhD program, I was working with a professor that I admire and respect a lot. And I really want him to admire and respect me as well. And I knew earlier in my career, when I was in my 30s, that I would have a habit of being the funny, quirky one. And so I would either work hard enough that I got their attention, be quirky enough that they thought it was charming, or just people please. I'll go into total fawn mode. And I thought I had outgrown it, which is why I was so disappointed with myself when I saw that I was doing it with him. And you know what I did? It was super uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable, but I emailed him. And I said, hey, this is what's going on. This, when you see me that I'm trying to be super funny or just a lot, that's not me. It's me being nervous. I'm working on it. Just want to give you a heads up. And he came back with,
You're doing a great job. I didn't notice anything. You just keep being you.
and by opening that conversation, now I do want to be clear, there was trust there. There was conversation there. I felt safe in having that conversation with him. If you feel safe, it's okay to have these conversations and let individuals know what you're working on. Because when we put it out loud, 1, it takes the shame and the stigma, it decreases it. And then 2, it allows the other person to help you with it in a kind way. Our heads tend to not always be the safest places for us. So sometimes it's helpful to get it out of our head and into the reality of what's actually happening. Because you see that over-explaining, it's not a flaw, it's a clue. It tells us where we still feel unsafe, unsure, or unseen. And once we start noticing it, we can shift it. We can move from defense to confidence, from flooding to clarity. We don't have to justify our existence. You get to take up space, you get to speak cleanly, and you get to trust that you are enough. Now, if this video resonated with you, make sure and stick around. A new video focused on the neurospicy workplace will come out every single Monday. Until then, don't forget, you got this. I'll see you next week.